Let's talk about the books I read in January. I started off January with my series that I drew from my to be read jar, and it was the duology of Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. So I read both of these. Let's start with Divine Rivals. This one is about Iris, and Iris lives with her mom, and her mother has been drinking heavily since her brother left for the war, because there is this war that is fought between two gods. And Iris herself is working at the newspaper, where she is up for this position of being a columnist. But she is up against someone else, Roman, and well, they are a bit of like, well, enemies because they both want this position, but they both respect each other's writing, right? So you know where that is going. When Iris is at home, she works on her own typewriter. This is a typewriter that she got from her grandmother. And sometimes she writes letters to her brother, but they never arrive when she posts them, because he is in the war and she doesn't really know where he is. So she turned to sort of posting these letters through her wardrobe, but apparently her typewriter, it has some sort of magic to it, and these letters disappear. And then one day someone writes back and she doesn't know who this person is. And well, she starts confiding in this person a little bit, after a while, and finding a place, or a safe place to vent her feelings. But of course, this other person must also have a magical typewriter. So there is the story about what happened to these typewriters, where they are coming from, who is this mystery person, although as a reader it's quite obvious and you know pretty soon, because you will know more than Iris does. And there is also the story about the war, and the war that is coming closer, and should they be involved in the war more as correspondents for the newspaper. So all that is going on in this book, and I enjoyed this one a lot. I really did. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I thought it would be a bit too YA maybe, or a bit too soft or something. But this book was actually really, really good. I was really happy to start off the year with something like this. And then I continued with Ruthless Vows. About this one, I cannot tell you too much because it just continues where Divine Rivals leaves off. The only sort of thing I can give you about this one is that the roles get sort of reversed, although we have the same main characters. However, quite disappointingly, this one wasn't as good as the first one. So the first one I absolutely adored, I absolutely loved, but this one fell a bit short. I don't really know why. I think it was a bit forced maybe at times, to make things work, and also the gods come into focus a bit more, and I felt like they were too easily approachable maybe for being gods, or at least one of them was a bit too what's the opposite of absent? Present. A bit too present in this book. Yeah, I think it was that. And then also in this one, there is a new character that is introduced, and we are just sort of supposed to love this character or to appreciate this character. And I feel like it should be earned a bit more. In the first one, the characters were built up a lot more, and in this one, it just felt like, oh, right, there is this other person that I need for the story, so let's just throw him in now. Because I forgot to put him in the first book. So that was for my duology and my first series that I finished this year, which I am quite proud of. One down, 11 to go, hopefully. Then I moved on to my buddy read. Now, originally I was going to read another book with Jason Tenreads, but we decided upon something else due to different reasons. And I ended up reading Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. I went into this one completely blind because I didn't prepare in any to be read videos or something like that. So I just got this book because it was what we were going to read, and I just started reading it. And wow, I do think that you might want some preparation on this one because it is quite shocking from, well, page 1 actually. Tender is the Flesh is about like a sort of dystopian society. So we are in the future and there has been this virus which affected all animals. So all animals became poisonous, venomous. You know, that the one where you cannot eat meat. So they were dangerous to humans. Even when humans got scratched or something by animals, that was dangerous and humans would die. Or at least that is what the government wants you to believe. So the animals were all eliminated. And people still had a sense for or taste for flesh. So they started to eat humans, but like illegally, of course, quite obviously. But then the government got involved and started creating like this legitimate human flesh, which means that these are like humans that are bred specifically to become meat for other humans. So it is really actually a really difficult book to read because you get to read about everything, actually everything about the breeding process, about how these bodies are cut up and what pieces are being used, and everything that's being done with like all the different elements of the body. And things like that. So it's really, in the beginning it was like, whoa, this is quite hard to read. After a while, I'd say you get desensitized a bit more, but it's really hard. Now, I'm still happy that I read this because I thought it was an interesting concept, and I am always interested in all these dystopian kind of ideas. But yeah, it was a hard one. Now, intermixed with all the explicit information is the storyline of Marcos, who works at this meat factory or this distribution plant or whatever. And there is his story and the story about what happened between him and his wife that is also going on. And it's quite difficult because this Marcus person is doing a job that is really horrendous to read about, and you hate that he is doing this job. But on the other hand, you get like his personal history and you also start sort of feeling bad for him, and you get this conflict of emotions. So yeah, and it's quite an interesting ending as well. So yeah, if you can handle this kind of thing, I would recommend you to read this one. Next, I read my first must-read book of 2026 of my list that I have to read, and it was Notes on Execution by Dania Kukavka. This one is about Ansel, and Ansel is on death row, but it is actually his last day. He is about to be executed in a few hours' time. And we get his point of view, counting down the hours and everything that is happening to him. And going through his mind in those hours. But we get that story interspersed with the stories of women he has affected throughout his life. Not his victims, not the reason why he is on death row, but women that are somehow connected to him or through the things that he did. For example, there is the story of his mother. There is the story of the sister of his ex-wife. And there is a story of the police officer that is tracking him down. So it was quite interesting to read because it all builds up. You get to know more about him. You get to know what his actual story was. You get to see how he had an impact on people's life. It's like this butterfly effect, really. Like if someone does a certain thing, then it starts to affect other people around it and around them again. And yeah, this is quite interesting because it also deals a lot with the idea of having the multiverse, I'd say, so different parallel universes, and what if, for example, this person hadn't died, then what would life be like if that person was still there? What would their life be like, and what would the lives be like of the people around him? And I actually really enjoyed reading this one. I thought it was a really great thriller. It was really interesting. The characters were really well done. The characters were really fleshed out, and it is really something that draws you in. And I would definitely recommend this if you like these visions maybe into the villain's head, but also the story surrounding it, you know. And it's all in a realistic way. It feels like true crime. It's not this thriller where you are actually following this person who is in house and some people start knocking on the windows or something like that. It's not that kind of thriller. It is looking back on things and remembering things, and through that getting the story. And the last book that I finished in January was The Death of Bunny Monroe by Nick Cave. I read this one because my husband was interested in this one, and originally I was thinking about doing a buddy read with him, but that wasn't really going to happen because he has a really different reading rhythm than I do. But I did want to look at the series with him because the series came out, so I had to really read this book now, so I could get into the series, because I prefer having read a book before I see like a film or a series based on it. So I did. I read The Death of Bunny Monroe, and it is, well, not a book that I would recommend to too many people, I'd say. Only to specific people, maybe. I was quite shocked in the beginning of this book because you start off with a lot of, well, sex, a lot of sex scenes. It is about Bunny Monroe, and he is a man who is very interested in women. Well, in women's bodies at least, and female genitalia. But he actually has a wife, which you discover a bit in, and the wife knows that he is cheating, and she has had enough, and she are you allowed to say that on YouTube? I think so. She commits suicide. I have heard a lot of people saying that she unalives herself or something like that, but you know. So that is terrible, of course, and it's all his fault because he is this terrible man. And they actually have a little boy, who is 9 years old. And you feel really bad for the little boy because he is very innocent. He doesn't really realize what is going on. He actually hero worships his dad, and he doesn't understand that his mom is not there anymore because his father is this person that he is. And then we have Bunny Monroe, who is reacting really bad to all of this. I don't want to go into it too much, but it's just not good. And he doesn't know what to do with this child, because he hasn't been really taking care of him anyway. So he just takes him along because he is a salesman of beauty products, and now he takes this little boy along, and he actually always leaves him in his car when he is going into houses to sell beauty products to women and trying to get them to sleep with him. It's at the beginning of this book, I really wasn't sure that I wanted to finish it because it was so terrible, but then you get to the little boy, and I felt bad for the little boy, and I was hoping that things would get better for him, so I needed to know if things would get better for him, so I finished the whole book. I have to say it got better because it was getting easier to understand what Nick Cave wanted to achieve with this book, or what he wanted to do with this book. But never ever have I liked Bunny Monroe, and I will not ever reread this book. But we are watching the series right now, which has quite some adaptations by now, at least in the later episodes. But the beginning is very much like the book, so maybe you should watch that. I don't know if I want to advise you to watch that, But the thing about the TV series is that you do not have this perspective from inside Bunny Monroe's head. So you do see a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff is going on in the series, but it feels nicer and cleaner than what you get in the book. It is really a lot, well, dirtier and a lot heavier, I'd say, a lot more intense in the book, because you always get Bunny's perspective and all the things that he is thinking about and the things that he should be thinking about and isn't thinking about. So yeah, that's Bunny Monroe. So these were my January reads. I had some that I absolutely loved, like Divine Rivals and Notes on an Execution, and I had some interesting reads, I'd say. Tender is the Flesh was definitely interesting, and then, yeah, I'll call Bunny Monroe, The Death of Bunny Monroe, interesting as well, but in a very different way. So yeah, all in all, actually quite an interesting January. Had a lot of variation going on. So I hope you read some great books in January as well, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye!